Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Tea Time with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today is the 23rd of December 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Monday's afternoon session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, view the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Okay, also just before we jump into the charts, quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website, and specifically our JFD research page, which we update on a daily basis. So yep, I believe you can find a lot of useful stuff here, guys, for yourselves. So feel free to visit us here on jfdbank.com and click on the research tab right here. But right now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is the FTSE 100. Now, from around the 9th of December, when the FTSE managed to reverse back to the upside here, and it traveled higher, it overcame the highest point of November. And let me just quickly put some lines here on this fresh chart of mine, because I've removed everything recently just to have, like I said, have a fresh start. So basically, the index managed to overcome this 7,446 mark, which was the highest point of November, and climbed further north. Now, for today, the index managed to reach the area near the 7,628 level so far, of course. But of course, the more important level that we're keeping a close eye on is the highest point of July, and that's roughly near the 7,727 mark. So we'll keep an eye on this one. That was the highest point of July. So let's see if the index, or should I say, if the bulls, if the buyers have enough steam kind of to push this one further north. But again, we'll keep a close eye on this one. Don't get me wrong, we are quite overstretched here, even on the or not even, but on the shorter time frame, we are quite overstretched, and even on the 4-hour chart, we are so as well. So maybe a bit of correction back to the downside could be possible before another leg of buying. So for now, how we could play this one out from the very short-term perspective, and like I said, this is only from the very short term. We'll keep an eye on this little upside support line here, taken from the low of the 17th of December. Now, in a way, as long as the index continues to trade above this, we'll continue aiming higher. And as I said, we will aim for this 7,727 zone. So in a way, long story short, basically, given that we have already been, we are quite extended here to the upside, a bit of a correction could be possible here before a further move higher. But if this upside line breaks and the price starts falling below this little territory right here near the 7,552, 50 zone, roughly around there. Now this is where we will consider a possible maybe move lower here back towards the 7,446 territory. So again, that's from the very short term perspective, because it's a bit difficult here to predict where it can go further, because if you look at the U.S. equity markets, and I'll get to one of those after this one, those continue to print new all-time highs. So in a way, the FTSE is also pushing higher. The only thing is that today we're seeing a very weak pound, and this is also helping the FTSE to climb higher. So, but from the technical picture here right now, we'll try to play this one carefully, and given that we are already at the end of the year, so we may get a few surprises. So in order not to get let's say stopped out on some of those surprises, we'll be very careful. We'll keep a short-term view here, and as I said, a drop below the 7,550-52 zone, roughly around here, could in a way lead towards slightly lower areas, and then we'll aim for this little territory right here, the low of the 17th of December. And that's near the 7,497. But if that gets broken, then yep, like I said, we'll aim for the 7,446 zone, and then we'll take it from there, see what he wants to do after. But as long as it remains above this short-term upside support line right here, then yes, we will continue aiming to the upside. So that's why, guys, for now, be very careful with this one. We may see a few surprises here, so be very careful and have your stop losses in place. Now then, Dow Jones Industrial Average. So on Friday we saw the Dow kind of declining a little bit here, but looking at the cash index right now, and actually let me just clear this chart a little bit, guys, because there are a bunch of old lines here that are no longer relevant. So, but looking at the cash index right now, the index is trading just slightly above the 28,500 mark. So in a way, for now, we're going to keep an eye on this one. We are quite overstretched here to the upside, even on the 4-hour chart. So, but similarly, like with the FTSE, we'll have a nice short-term upside support line here that we will keep an eye on, keep a close eye on. And this one's taken from the low of the 3rd of December. So in a way, as long as it remains above this upside line, we will aim for the upside. But if this suddenly, let's say, if the price suddenly starts dropping lower, and we see initially a drop below the 28,337 mark, which is the high of the 16th of December, but then another drop, if we see another drop below the 28,242, roughly around there, guys, that's the low of the 18th of December. If we do see a drop below all this, then yes, we will start considering the downside. Excuse me. And again, at the same time, let's say by the time this could travel lower here, for example, if this could travel lower, and if it drops below the 28,242 mark, this in a way also could be testing around here, testing the 21 EMA here shown as the yellow line, and also the 20 SMA inside of Bollinger Band. So a drop below all of this could lead the index lower here. Initially, of course, we'll aim for that psychological 28,000 level, but slightly below that, we do have another potential area of support near the 27,800 mark. So another one to keep an eye on. But again, we need to see a drop below this little territory right here, guys. And the, like I said, the lower level here that we're keeping an eye on is the 28,242. So keep your eyes on this one. We'll start, as I said, we'll start considering the downside if we get a break below this upside line, but to get comfortable, that's the break that we need here lower. But until it's trading above this upside line, the path is still more to the upside, so be very careful with that one, guys. Gold. Now, gold is a tricky one. I talked about this one this morning, and this is what I kept saying, guys. Yes, we did have a nice break here through this downside resistance line here, taken from the highest point of September. Yes, that was wonderful. The bulls kind of were quite happy, but what I was saying this morning, in order to get a little bit more comfortable with further acceleration to the upside, a push above the 1487 level is required. That's the current highest point of December, so we need to see that level getting cleared first before considering further move towards the psychological 1500 level or even above that. So for now, we're keeping an eye on this one. We're just waiting for this one. I cannot say that it's leaning, let's say, to the downside, because we are still above this downside line, and in a way, for us, for the downside, in order to consider the downside, well, ideally we would like to see a drop below the 1470 zone, but as I said, well, what I've mentioned this morning, I didn't actually mention this morning this one, but we can start considering the downside if we see a drop below the 1475 mark right here at the time. Let's say if this decides to travel lower, in a way, it could start testing all of these EMAs. But if that fails to withhold, then yes, it could drive for it could lead towards lower levels. But to be a little bit more comfortable with the downside, a drop below the 1470 zone would be needed. So that's why, guys, be very careful with this one. For now, like I said, we're keeping a close eye on these levels, and we're not doing anything. We're just observing this one, but it might present itself with a nice opportunity here, either for the bulls if it pushes above the 1487, or for the bears if it drops below the 1470. So keep your eyes on this one. US oil, so WTI oil, I talked about this morning, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because I've kind of clarified everything in my Trader's Espresso. But basically, after hitting the upper bound of the rising channel here, and I do apologize, it's not a very clear and very accurate rising channel, especially if you're looking at the 4-hour chart. On the daily chart, it looks nice because we do have some false breakouts here, but basically now this one's declining. It is correcting within the rising channel, but as I said this morning, in order for us to consider further declines, a drop below the psychological 60 level would be required, and then we'll be very careful. We'll go step by step. First, we'll aim for the 100 EMA here on the 4-hour chart. Then we'll target the 200 EMA, but a slightly better area of support could be seen near the 58.10 mark, which is the low of the 11th of December. So for now, keep your eyes on this one. With the upside, we'll take a very conservative approach and wait for a push above the highs of last week near the 61.40, and only then aim for the upside. Until then, we're not really looking at the upside right now. If from the very short-term perspective, I need to kind of clarify this because overall we are still within an uptrend. So yeah, again, it could travel higher, but not from the very short-term perspective. For now, it seems that it's struggling with the upside. So let's see how it's going to perform around the 60 mark, and if it drops below this, then yes, we'll slowly drag this one lower. Maybe it could even end up testing the lower bound. Who knows? For now, it's just this is the idea. For now, like I said, we'll keep it short and simple, and we'll pick it up on this one later on. AUDUSD. So Australian dollar is the strongest one today. We saw a nice rally here this morning already. So again, I've cleared this chart a little bit from all the lines. I just wanted to have a fresh start. So basically straightforward here. You can see that the pair here, AUD-USD, is struggling with this level right here near the 0.6930 mark. So roughly around here. And actually, let me just quickly highlight that for our future reference. So basically, this is where we're going to be keeping a close eye on here. And this 0.6930 mark, you can see that yes, on the 12th of December we did have a nice overshoot here, but even the 4-hour candle was not able to close above this level. So this morning we also had a nice test of this 0.6930 mark, but as you can see, it quickly now reversed back to the downside, or at least the bears are trying to push this one lower. Now again, yes, there is a possibility maybe for this one to correct a little bit lower. The only thing is that don't forget, we do have ourselves a short-term, maybe somewhat of a tentative upside support line here, or well, actually not very tentative, actually perfect 3 touches here. So in a way, that's where we're going to be keeping a close eye on. If this pair decides to retrace back down, then yes, we will consider a possible test of this upside line. But if it holds, then yep, we could see another round of buying here potentially. But the only problem here is, or should I say, the only issue here is a bit of a tricky one with the upside. We'll probably wait for a push above the, or even let's say a nice close of a 4-hour candle above the 0.6930 level first before examining the upside. But probably what this pair is leaning here to is maybe we'll have a bit of a correction here. Now let me just quickly put some lines here. So this is what we're going to be keeping a close eye on here, the 0.6898 mark, or in a way you could round it up towards the 69 zone. So basically roughly around here. If this territory holds, we could see this one reversing back to the upside earlier without even testing this upside line and pushing higher, and then yes, like I said, all eyes are on this 0.6930 mark. Now If the pair drops below the 0.6898 zone, then there is a possibility we could see a test of this upside line, and at that moment we'll take it from there, because we'll try to see if this upside line can hold, and again we can see the bulls jumping in here again and pushing higher. But basically, long story short, the situation or the scenario that we're keeping a close eye on right now here is this one, like this, basically, where we could see a bit of a decline, maybe a test of this 0.6898 zone or the 0.69 level itself. If it holds, we could see a nice reversal and push higher. But if the 0.6930 level fails to withhold, then yes, a new forthcoming higher high would be confirmed, and we could start aiming for higher levels. Of course, the psychological 0.70 level could start coming into or should I say appearing on the radar for us in that case, in this and after this break. But again, we need to see that move first. So for now, we are kind of aiming, maybe looking for a small correction before another leg of buying. To get comfortable with the downside here, well, to be honest, a drop below this little territory right here, and let me just quickly put this on the chart, roughly around the 0.6860 could do the trick here for more sellers, and we could start seeing this one driving lower. So, but for now, it seems that the downside is slightly off the table, unless it's a small correction before another leg of buying. GBPCHF. Now, the pound, as I said, this is the weakest one. So basically, I've previously, a few weeks ago, I talked about GBPCHF, where I was telling you about this upside support line taken from the lowest point of August. And as you can see, this should I say this morning, today, we had a nice test of this upside line. This upside line held nicely, and the big question here is, can it continue doing that? Now, don't get me wrong, from the shorter term perspective, there is a possibility to see maybe this one correcting a little bit higher here, and maybe pushing a little bit to the upside. The only thing is, we'll be very careful right now, and we'll try to see how it performs today and where today's daily candle will close. This is a 4-hour chart, by the way, but have a look at the daily candle. If it drops below this, and if it stays below this upside line, then well, it increases the chances of a further move lower. So that's why, for now, guys, it's a very interesting spot here. In a way, if it rebounds back to the upside and travels back above the 1.28 zone, this is where it could become a little bit more interesting for the buyers. But again, it will be a difficult battle here for them, because the bears could still keep an eye on these EMAs here, and if the rate struggles to push above all of these EMAs, then yes, we could see the bears stepping in again. So that's why keep your eyes on this little territory right here near the 1.2891 zone, roughly around there. And if we do get a nice push above this, then yes, we will aim for slightly higher levels, or should I say maybe for the these levels that we saw last week. We'll aim, of course, for the psychological 130 level and above that. But again, for now, it's a bit difficult to talk about the upside unless it's a small correction. But we'll also keep we will also keep our eyes on this upside support line, and if it holds, yes, that's still a chance for the bulls. But if it breaks and we see a nice daily close below this upside line, then well, I mean, further declines are possible. And the EURUSD, very quick update on this one. I talked about this pair this morning, and to be honest, not much happened here, but still the same game plan remains. We need to see a drop below Friday's lows near the 1.1065 zone before examining a further move lower. But again, the downside could be limited due to this short-term tentative upside support line taken from the low of the 1st of October. Again, we're not going to drag this one any further. We'll try to see what he wants to do near this upside line, and then we'll take it from there. With the upside, it's also tricky. We need to see a good push above this downside, this short-term tentative downside resistance line taken from the high of the 12th of December, and a push above the 1.1124 zone before, let's say, examining the upside again. So for now, stay put here, guys. Be very careful, stay safe, and yep, keep your eyes on the price action. Right, okay. I hope you found it useful, guys. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. If you want to join me tomorrow we'll have our Traders Espresso. So yep, guys, if you want to join me tomorrow morning at my Traders Espresso, that's as always 7 o'clock GMT time. For now, I hope you have a beautiful evening, guys. Don't overtrade, and like I said, I'll see you tomorrow at my Traders Espresso, 7 o'clock GMT. Thank you very much, and bye bye.